Thinking through how a particular event or an issue in the Forex will affect the forces of supply and demand can help to understand how currencies move and why they move. Ultimately, currencies are a commodity like anything else, in that there's a theoretically limited supply of it. And as more demand for a currency picks up, its value picks up. As more demand, as more supply of that currency increases, then its value declines. So we can look at that just using a supply and demand graph, which I'm showing here. So imagine that the European stock market began to collapse, which would cause a lot of selling, which would flood the market with euros. Well, if that happens, essentially what's going on here, so this line right here, this is the supply curve. And if the supply curve is suddenly shifted to the right because quantity is increasing of the euro, then we're going to see where it meets the demand curve, it's going to go lower and lower. So you can see how this plays out. If this supply curve is shifted to the right because supply of the euro increased because of all this selling of European equities, it's going to move down the demand curve until it meets at a lower price than it was originally. The same thing is also true if we were to see demand for the euro increase because the European stock market was going really well. So things are going really well, and the supply curve is now shifting over here to the left where there is less quantity. So a smaller quantity, and it's moving up this demand curve to a higher price. The same thing is also true when you look at on the demand side. You can walk through that same kind of analytical process on the demand side, and it helps to visualize what is likely to happen because ultimately that's what's really happening. There's two things that can affect prices in the Forex. There's trade and there's capital flows. So no matter what fundamental factor you're looking at, ultimately those two things are affecting supply and demand of those currencies. And by thinking through it as a process of, well, where do those two curves intersect and what should happen to that supply and demand balance? Is it going to shift up or down one of those curves? And if it does, where should prices go?